Welcome in, y'all. NFL Wildcard round picks. We waited all year to get to these playoffs. We're finally here. I'm very, very excited about this. This bracket is very chaotic this year. It's not our traditional bracket as far as what teams are in it, what teams are where. I'm very, very pumped to jump right into it. My full bracket predictions, those are coming tomorrow on Wednesday, but today, Tuesday, we're doing the wildcard round picks. Straight up and against the spread. I had an amazing year against the spread. Finished the year 12-4 in the final week. And these are my records. I was in the top 0.1% on the ESPN challenge. Over 1 million people in it. I finished about 250th. So doing really great. Hope to carry it over into the playoffs here. But let's jump right into it here. You're going to start with the Rams visiting Carolina. Deja vu, right? From just not too long ago. Similar spread. Rams were favored by, I think, around 10 points at that time. They're favored by 10 points again this time. They're visiting Carolina. Carolina 8-9 coming into this. I believe with either the second or third worst point differential for a team ever in the postseason. And I've said it all year. I haven't been a big Carolina guy, and there's some teams, I think everyone feels this to an extent, right? Some teams that when you're picking or you're doing stuff, you kind of lean against. I've leaned a little against Carolina all year. They did a bit better than I thought they would, but they're still 8-9, and the analytics really don't like them. Odds makers really don't like them. They're underdog by 10 points in this one. Carolina got the Rams last time. The big reason for that is the 3 turnovers. You look at the Rams, this is a team that in most of their losses, they beat themselves, through, weird plays and stuff like that, special teams mishaps, or just careless turnovers. They had 3 in this game. Carolina had none. That was the difference. And it was still a tight game. I think if the Rams can take care of the football, I don't think there's any reason they can't win this game, and there's no reason they can't win this game big. I mean, Carolina, we've seen them get blown out several times this year. And like I said, Rams take care of the football. I don't think it's too big of an issue. Mind you, it's a playoff game. So that crowd's going to be jumping. It's a big stadium there in Carolina, and, a surprisingly large stadium, actually. It's going to be packed to the brim. Fans are going to be nuts. It's going to be fun. I hope they do well. Unfortunate that they get the 4:30 Saturday start. You were hoping for maybe a night game. I know that kind of bleeds into night this time of year. There's a chance of rain during the game, but that chance has steadily decreased throughout the week. It's starting to actually look like it might be more on the dry side. I'm going to go with the Rams here, not only to win, but to cover, because I have an interesting one for you this year. All but one time this year, so 16 out of 17 games, the Rams either covered and won, which is crazy because they've had a lot of big spreads they were favored by, or they lost outright. There is only one time all year that the Rams covered the spread and didn't cover the spread and still won the game. That was against the Seahawks, which I think is interesting. So that means, big spreads. They've had a lot of spreads. They're favored by about 10. They either really blow the team out or they just lose outright. So it's almost like you got to pick one of those with this game. I'm going to go with them to win. Moving on, though, we have Green Bay at Chicago, and this is an interesting one. You have a rematch from just a few weeks ago. These two teams played twice in the last, 5-ish weeks to close out the season. Chicago favored by 1.5. I've seen Green Bay 1.5. I've seen Chicago 1.5. It's going back and forth. It's basically a pick-em line, to be completely honest. This one's 8:15 Eastern, Saturday night on Amazon. Amazon paid a hefty price to get this game. This is probably gonna have, or would have had, the highest viewership if it was on like a major network. Amazon might hurt it a little bit, but this is probably the most looked forward to game across the country. And it's going to be a great one. You get Chicago, the 2 seed at home, winning the division, a surprising division champion. And Caleb Williams and this offense has shown a lot of growth this year. It's been very exciting. I think they have an incredibly bright future ahead. I think this is a team that they can continue to build. They still have some cap space. They're going to put together some good rosters down the years with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. They're going up against Jordan Love, LaFleur, and this Packers team, they've been here before. They've been here a couple years in a row now. They haven't gone crazy deep, but they've been around. And this is a team I talked about in my last video. Their roster is better than you might think it is, given their record. I think 9-7-1 is a bit misleading for the Packers. There's a reason the line in this one is so close. I think back, the Bears have played them close, but the Packers won the first game. Packers, if we're being honest, probably win that second game if Love doesn't go down or obviously they don't recover the onside kick. I'm kind of rooting for Chicago a little bit in this one just because I think it'd be a blast to see the Bears kind of go on a little run. I'd be for that. I think it'd be a little fun to see Chicago in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's been a while, but my gut and my head both on this one, it's Green Bay. I think Green Bay goes in there. I think they take care of business. I think it's a close game. But I think Green Bay is prepared for this atmosphere, the playoffs. I think they're prepared to go in there on the road and get the job done. I actually feel pretty good about this one. Kind of hope I'm a little wrong, like I said, but I think the Packers do go on the road and get it done at Soldier Field. We'll move on to the Sunday games now. Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern, Jacksonville, Buffalo. Beautiful weather. Beautiful. I mean, it's going to be perfect for an outdoor game. So no concerns there. Obviously, not the only concerns we expected in Jacksonville was maybe some rain, but it doesn't look like any. Buffalo's favored by 1.5 in this one, and in this one, this is not a 1.5 line that's going back and forth. Buffalo is firmly 1.5 point favorites, and frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if it, itched up around 2.5 in the coming days. And this one is interesting. So you have the team with the most rushing yards this season, Buffalo, against the team allowing the least rushing yards, Jacksonville. The Bills don't play well when Josh Allen just has to go in straight drop back mode over and over and over. Now, he can be Superman, but I just don't like that early in the game for them. Philadelphia kind of forced them into that, and, you saw how that game went. I like Jacksonville better than Buffalo. It's really just the Josh Allen factor. It's like, is Josh Allen going to just save the day at the end of it? If they keep them within range, I trust him to go down the field and get it done. But the way the Jacksonville team is playing, the way they've looked, going into Denver, I think was a big one for me. I don't think Denver is necessarily like a juggernaut or anything like that, but they're a really, really good team. They went in there on the road, looked really good against them. Jacksonville has looked great. Buffalo struggled this year, even against some bad teams. They've struggled at times. I think Jacksonville gets this one done at home. I think the Jaguars are going to win this one. Obviously, I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a fun game. This is one of those, if these two teams had bigger markets or bigger fan followings, they have good fan followings, but if they were bigger TV markets, you would definitely see this one in a primetime slot. But they're relatively small TV markets. That's why you see it at the 1 o'clock window. But that's going to be a really good early game Sunday. Then the 4:30 Eastern window on Fox on Sunday, you have the Niners visiting the Eagles. Eagles have jumped up to 4.5 point favorites in this one, which really interests me. It opened at 3.5 and jumped up. I know the Niners struggled last Saturday, and they did. But Eagles have struggled too down the stretch. They've looked better, coming off that losing streak. They did get back to themselves a little bit, but it's not like we've seen a high-flying offense at all. They could take advantage of San Francisco's very weak defense, both through injury and just holes. But San Francisco, it sounds like they can get some guys back this week, and you get Trent Williams back, I think. I mean, that's a big deal. That was a big piece they were missing on Saturday. I think this is a tight game. When you bump a line up to 4.5, that to me shows you're like, there's a potential that this thing, there's a world this thing gets out of hand. And I just don't know that I see that in this one. I think the Niners are too well coached, and the Eagles haven't been playing well enough offensively to do that. I think this one stays close. I still think because of the weak San Francisco defense and the way their offense did struggle against the Seattle defense, and Philly's defense is very good as well, I do think Philly wins this one, so Philly moves on to the next round. But I do think San Francisco has it in them to cover this, what's become a fairly large 4.5 point spread on the road. But that's a tough environment, going into Philly. We know that's a tough environment, and we'll see how Brock Purdy faces it. They kind of get a redo for that NFC Championship a few years back. That game, I've heard both fan bases argue on it. Philly was like, we were going to blow you out anyways. And San Francisco, Purdy got hurt really early in that one, so it's hard to know what really would have happened. They get their second chance in that one there. Then, Sunday Night Football, playoff edition. You get the Chargers visiting the New England Patriots. Playoff football is back in Foxborough. For the first time since Tom Brady threw that pick six to lose the game to the Tennessee Titans in 2019, there's playoff football at Foxborough. So, I mean, I bet their fans are stoked for this one. Boston's a great sports city. The crowd's going to be going nuts. LA, the weather's not going to be horrible, right? I think it's low 30s, something like that. So, I mean, that's cold, but that's not that big of a deal. Chargers are traveling cross country, though. A late game helps them in that cold weather. Chargers have been beat up a little bit this year. I know they've gotten healthier. They've gotten some guys back, but this O-line still just isn't good. I mean, Justin Herbert is constantly running for his life, and he's getting sacked a ridiculous amount of times per game. I mean, he probably doesn't get as much credit as he deserves for how much he's done, given how poor his protection has been. Unfortunately, there's been a few times this year, the Chargers, I was about to talk about their game against the Jaguars, they just fell flat. That 35-6 beat down against Jacksonville. There's just some times this year, the Chargers, they've fallen flat. They've also won as underdogs several times, don't get me wrong. But I think the Patriots at home, I think they're playing better. They're a slightly better team right now. Both teams are well coached. Both quarterbacks are good. I think the Patriots win this one. And, I think they do it, fairly handily here. I have them winning 26-16, so obviously covering that 3.5 point spread. It's just a weird feeling here that the Patriots, maybe it's at the end, I don't know, but they extend the score on them a little bit there. I think New England definitely has this one at home. We'll see, though. Like I said, Chargers have won as underdogs several times this year. We'll see if they can do it one last time, or obviously not the last time. They'd have to do it several times in these playoffs, but that should be a fun one on Sunday night. Then we jump on over to Monday, and man, if we could just get anything close to what that Sunday night game was last week between the Steelers and Ravens, this one would be awesome. You have Texans visiting the Steelers. Houston favored by 3 points on the road. This is the first time the Texans are not playing a wildcard game in that 4:30 Eastern window on Saturday. So this is uncharted territory for them to be out of that window. They get a night playoff game in wildcard weekend, and on a Monday, no less. This was a tough one. It really was, because, I feel like I wanted to lean Pittsburgh. I'd be down for one last Aaron Rodgers ride. The way that the crowd was rocking last Sunday night, I think it was a lot of fun. I feel like this team has some fight and some energy in them, and I was very close to picking Pittsburgh in this one, but I really tried to get all past that, and I just looked at this one on paper. And I'm like, man, that Houston defense is something else. That Houston defense is really, really scary. It is one of the best we've seen in a long time. The offense is fine, right? It's gotten better as the year's gone on. It was a little stale at the beginning of the year. It's gotten better. But that defense wins championships, or that's what they say. And defense travels. That's the big thing. That's a saying. Defense travels. Offense can sometimes struggle on the road like that, but defense travels well. I think the Texans are able to go on the road and get this one done, but I still have Pittsburgh covering because I think they can keep this one close. I have it 21-19 Houston, but I think that's going to be a fun one there. It could even be lower scoring than that. We'll see, but that should be a good one. So those are my wild card picks for this weekend in the NFL. It's hard to believe we're already there. Like I said, my full bracket predictions are coming out tomorrow. I've been working on those, brainstorming what I think is going to happen. A lot of different scenarios this year, a lot of different stuff to work out. There's less matchups compared to previous years where you just, pick them, move on, don't think about it too hard. There's a lot of head scratchers this year. I'm working on the best bracket possible, and I'll have that out tomorrow. So looking forward to it. Let me know what y'all's picks are and who you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year.